All right. My name is Carolyn Leadley.
Wait, Carolyn.
Oh, no.
Carolyn.
Okay.
I have
Let
to
me
do
go
the intro.
when-
Sorry. Okay, I'll let you know. We should have rehearsed that part. Hi, everybody. This is Diane Van Buren. We're presenting our monthly third Thursday Detroit Solar Stories. Tonight we have a really fun agenda because you're going to get a view of one of our longest lasting Detroit urban farms. Both Carolyn Leadley and Jack VanDyke from Rising Pheasant Farms are going to be our speaker tonight. Just to remind you, this is the weekly Solar Stories event. Third Thursday is the Detroit Turn, sponsored by Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. So here you can see all of the different weekly speakers. You could spend every Thursday with Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association if you so choose. I think some of you do, so we greatly appreciate that. And we do have financial support from the Department of Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy, otherwise known as EGLE. Another reminder that this is the 30th anniversary of Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, working all these years to help promote renewables in Michigan. If you're interested in knowing more about GLREA, and I think I'm preaching to the choir right now, here are some of your options that you may choose to get in touch with us or to make your contribution. So going back to our introduction with Carolyn, I'm going to take this off. So I think, can I take this part off? So that Carolyn, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the farm before we get started with the video.
Great. Thank you, Diane. As Diane said, I am the farm owner and manager at Rising Pheasant Farms. We've been around since 2009. So I'll let you do the math of how many years that is. But it's been a few. So we are a farm business here in the city. We specialize in microgreens and shoots. So we grow those in a greenhouse year round. But we also do a variety of other field produce, tomatoes, spinach, etc., that we sell mostly to Eastern Market or customers at Eastern Market. But we also have some restaurant clients as well, mostly for the shoots. One element of our farm that is particularly unique and really only doable in a city is that we are bicycle based. So all our produce is moved to market and around town for deliveries, all via bike with trailers, etc. So that's keeping our costs down, you know, nice practical business things like that. But obviously it also has a big impact on our environmental footprint and our social footprint in the neighborhood and in the city, and being able to build relationships with folks that we just happen to ride by and they know us, and so we're more connected to our neighbors and Detroit in general, the area that we're riding around. Is there any other particulars should I cover?
Well, let's let the video roll because I know Kat did a pretty good interview, but it's nice to see your face because in most of the video, we're going to see a mask. And it's wintertime too. So it's kind of chilly.
It was quite cold. I remember numb feet
it was cold. Yeah.
So Kat Diggs, let me introduce everyone again to Catherine Diggs, who is about to become a graduate student at University of Michigan. And starting shortly to get her master's degree in environmental studies. So it's a perfect fit with the Graham Institute for Kat to be moving on to, but we're going to miss her a lot here in Detroit. So Kat, this is your turn for your video.
Yeah, hi, so I'm gonna share my screen. I'll kind of discuss for people who haven't attended one of these meetings before, a little bit of context about this project. It's really good to see you, Carolyn and Jack. Thanks again for a wonderful interview. So essentially the idea came from the fact that Diane Van Buren and her colleague Diane Cheklich wanted some solar case studies through the Renewable Energy Committee of the Green Task Force, which is the sustainability advisory body for City Council in Detroit. And I decided to use part of my AmeriCorps service and then my work at Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice as their program manager to pursue these solar case studies, but in a more engaging, less technical way than your usual industry solar language. So it turned into a documentary project that I led with my project partner, Alex De Vega, who's until very recently was a Detroit-based photojournalist. And so amongst other interviews, we interviewed Rising Pheasant Farms and their solar project. And I'll share a link to the playlist at large, but you can see here that we have all different kinds of solar projects across the city that have a variety of impacts on the community, positive impacts. And we're about to release our 2 final videos this week, which would be Manistee Community Treehouse and Oakland Avenue Farm. And so that'll be a total of 16 case studies throughout the city. So I'll go ahead and get us started. So if you have any issues hearing anything or seeing anything, just let me know. We do have some rather long context slides. So I'll make sure to pause in those moments for about 5 seconds to give everyone an opportunity to read through. We try to time it so people do have time, but I don't want to assume. So I'll just pause those moments throughout the video.
My name's Carolyn Leadley, and this is Rising Pheasant Farms. It's a for-profit business, agricultural business that we started in 2009, so we've just completed our 14th season. And we grow here on the east side of Detroit. We specialize in what you see, which is microgreens and shoots. So we've been selling those since 2009 at Eastern Market to local restaurants. But since our very beginning, we've definitely branched out a lot. So we grow a variety of other fruits and vegetables. We're kind of a family affair. So I'm the farm manager and owner of the business. And then my husband, Jack, does all the accounting, and he's the person you'd see at market. So he's definitely a more familiar face sometimes for the business. And then one thing that's particularly unique about our farm is that we're all bike-based, so we take everything to market by bike, and that all our deliveries and that is a big fundamental part of our sustainability, both economically, but obviously environmentally and socially as well.
Just give it a quick second.
Every element of the farm is intended to work together, so it's definitely more of like a resilient, regenerative, like permaculture type farm is kind of our goal. So the manure from the rabbits goes on the garden as fertilizer. I mean, it's just really going back to the old way of people used to farm for millennia all over the world until industrial agriculture came in and replaced everything. Right. So we kind of view our lives and the farm is definitely a relearning process, relearning skills. Neither one of us grew up on farms, so it's definitely a relearning of how to work with nature, how to grow in a natural way beyond organic. Another element of our business has always been to live a very simple life so that we can continue to run our business. All our systems here at the farm, it's a continual process to figuring out what is the most sustainable. As I had mentioned before, it's always like, okay, do you move forward with technology as the savior, or do you step back into a simpler life? I think we try to balance those two, and usually opt for the latter. But solar seemed like it made sense simply because there was quite a few energy uses that the farm needed in particular, particularly a cooler, that was going to be awfully hard to figure out how to do in a simpler way. That energy supply was just necessary for those very basic purposes to run the business. Speaking with folks at Strawberry Solar, which is who we worked with, Diane Cheklich, and the folks there, they kind of let us know that DTE was going to be changing their rates last year, and so not giving people as much money for their solar creation, their energy creation. So that was kind of the push to like, okay, we need to jump on now. If we're going to do this, this seems like the right time. Certainly solar and just doing any kind of non-oil extractive type energy creation fits completely in line with what we do here at Rising Pheasant Farms, you know. We also worked with D2 Solar, who pairs with Strawberry Solar to have affordable solar panels available. It was both the DTE rate change that kind of pushed us into gear, but also they had let us know about this Rural Energy for America grant that the federal government had going. As I said, is typically for rural businesses or agricultural businesses. So we were the first to apply as an urban farm and to receive a grant. So that was for about a quarter of the solar panel cost. So the fact that we were able to get that, the fact that the rate was changing, it seemed like a good time to make the decision. The total cost was about $18,000, and a quarter of that came in from the grant, and then we ran like a GoFundMe-esque crowdsourcing fundraiser all last summer. So that raised probably, it was about $10,000 from that. So I attribute that mostly to, you know, the decade of time that we put into our community as a business. I think being at the farmers market and building relationships, as opposed to just having all our stuff go to grocery stores or restaurants, we have a lot of dedicated customers and a CSA base that, you know, we're really excited to support us. We're excited that we could take, you know, our produce offerings, and not only is it bike delivered, you know, that it's also solar, you know, produced. And then obviously, you know, personal business funds also supported the purchase.
This is all the power coming from the solar panels here to this box, which is just a disconnect, it's just a switch. This is what they had to put in when the city had a problem. So then the power goes from here to our house first, and then it comes up out of here through the meter and then back out. On the sales invoice, I think it said 5.94, which is like the max kilowatt output. I don't, occasionally it has ticked up to that. I think generally we reside in a 4.5 to 5 kilowatt peak use pattern. I would guess that maybe by February or March, that power coming in number is higher than the power going out number. And then March, April will start the time of year where we've just been through a period where we're using more, and we're about to enter a period where we produce more. You can get a sense if you follow it day to day, but generally it's hard to tell what the system's doing until you look at it. But that's okay, you know. But even that is kind of, are you aware of CoolBots? It's like a well-known thing among growers where you use a regular air conditioner to build a DIY refrigerator. So even that is, you know,
Certainly more efficient than a...
That's right, than a commercial refrigeration, for sure. I feel like this is our humble, like tiny little analog.
Work in the realm of food independence, food sovereignty. You know, I feel like it's just another element of Detroiters being in control of their lives, and having a say in their quality of life. Detroit is definitely a city that is used to taking care of itself and being resilient, and I feel like it is a place that solar or any other kind of system that helps with that resilience, it would be a great tool.
I think that people are very familiar with spending more money up front to save money down the road, you know, so I think people are already ready to make decisions like that. And I think solar now is one of these things that's becoming mainstream that doesn't seem so crazy, you know. I think people are primed to make that decision as soon as it's explained, you know, like how to make it.
And having more opportunities where, ideally, where the government, either the city government or federal government is supporting, especially low-income areas, where you're putting them on apartment buildings or whatever, you know, that like it's a benefit to the landowner, landlord, it's also a benefit to all the tenants with reduced energy bills. Makes so much sense, but it's something that like, obviously it takes some amount of capital to do if you're doing it privately, but you know, with folks working together in city government, it's something that would be very accessible to the whole city if it was a priority. For us as a business, it's also, you know, everything's marketing, right? So it doesn't hurt to be able to market to our customers that this is an added way that we're a more sustainable farm, that you are supporting green energy by supporting us. So I feel like that's definitely something that businesses in Detroit could take a look at as a way to market to their customers, and to give themselves, you know, stand out in a different way. But yeah, I mean, I think it has been a wonderful addition to our farm, and we're really hoping that, like, with the other organizations that are working in the city that we've had the pleasure to work with, that it hopefully be more accessible and more available. And like you said, getting rid of the stigma that it's only for a certain kind of person or a certain kind of place, and that it can be a very universal, you know, tool for all of us to benefit from.
All right, thank you so much for the video. I think we should give a few little shouts out to what some of those other sites were that you saw. I think I saw Jesu School. I saw the tiny homes. What were some of the others, Kat?
Yeah, it was EcoWorks. It was Church of the Messiah with their Wi-Fi, solar-powered Wi-Fi station. And VanDyke's house is VanDyke's a local energy advocate who has solar on his house as well. So yeah, we try to do that in all of our videos and just kind of show like the intertextuality of solar across Detroit and how it all really interconnects.
Yeah.
And it is our first documentary project, so it's not like the most pristine everything. It's still a little rugged, but you know, it's our first experience ever doing documentary together.
Yeah, and it tells the story. It really does tell the story about how important solar is to all these different people and all these different types. So if Jack is still on, thank you, Father Morris.
Here he is to tag in.
The tag team here.
That's what parenting's all about.
That's right. If you could explain to us, Jack, a little bit about all the different systems. So we could see the big green water tanks. If you could explain just a little bit more about how the solar, or how the pumps actually, whoops, let me get your earphones on. Okay, let me start over again.
We're good.
With prior to getting the solar power and being able to pump using the electricity, the water all the way out to your fields, you were having to irrigate in a whole different way. But now that you're using this new system, you're explaining to me last summer a little bit about how this is a labor-saving device as well. So if you could talk a little bit more about how, and maybe with urban farms, it's even a little more different from the rural farms, but how the farm operation is working using electricity in a more efficient way, but now you you're using solar to help pay for that or to help use it. So you're still sustainable while using electricity.
Sure. We just try and be very mindful of the big appliances that the farm needs to run. So the biggest expense is probably the cooling unit for the produce cooler. And all this stuff was stuff that we just used to have an energy bill for that now is all taken care of by the panels. But for sure, trying to capture rainwater, at least the way that we're doing it, requires a heavy duty pump that draws a lot of current. So I think that has been something that, you know, if the rain barrels preceded the solar panels, we just would have been paying an energy bill on that. But we feel good about, you know, setting a system up that way because we have the panels.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So prior to the rain barrels and the solar, you were just using regular city water for irrigation?
Sure, and we still do. The rain barrels, they put a dent in it, but we don't collect enough from the roof of our house to rely solely on the rainwater. But this time of year, we have just been trying to use them efficiently and get all that water out before the next rainfall, so that at least we are maximizing all the watering we can do with the rainwater.
This summer's been an especially good summer for rainwater.
Sure, yeah.
Bad
Yep.
for basements that flooded, but good for the irrigation aspect. So I guess somebody benefited.
That's right.
So my garden is just going gangbusters right now with all the rain
Yep.
we've had, that's for sure.
Yep.
Maybe you could tell the viewers a little bit about your neighborhood. It's a very different neighborhood from most any neighborhood in Detroit. And if you could give us a little bit of context about how that community works.
Sure. We Carolyn knew some of the people who already had large gardens nearby. We just went around doing soil tests, and we located a few places that were clean enough that we felt comfortable putting garden beds on. And so where we are now is one of those. But we didn't try and stray more than, you know, walking distance from the projects that were already in place. And I think that it has largely unfolded along those lines. It's maybe a 4 or 6 square block area at this point, with lots of large gardens and outdoor land use projects. The kind of projects has gotten a little more varied recently, but you know, they include old-fashioned gardens. There's an orchard. There's a young lady doing mushroom cultivation. So I think there's
flower, like
that's
cut
right.
flowers.
Yep. There's a cut flower setup. So it's good. They have all
Arboretum
happened.
now. That's great. A whole
Yep.
neighborhood
Nursery.
arboretum.
Yep.
That nursery. That.
Yep. So all these projects are very visible. They have a very obvious impact on what the area looks like, and they have all happened in different ways. So that's reassuring to me. Like, some folks got help through the city, but other people just kind of silently acquired that area and started using it over a long period of time. And that's great. You know, recently there have been a couple neighborhoods nearby who have been trying for a long time to set up a garden near their house, and the city has recently displayed much more interest in that, and I think that has made it a little bit easier. But
So-
I think that go ahead.
You started with your house and the 3 or 2 vacant lots next to the house, and then you
Sure.
expanded beyond that. So most of the pictures showed the house with the land, but then you jumped across the street, the side lot, and has that gone into
Yep.
cultivation? So about how much
Carolyn's got-
acreage do you have now? Are you like up to
It's
half an acre?
probably between a half acre and 1 acre. Carolyn has 11 beds on the north part of the property now, and there are, it depends on how you divide them, but there are roughly 20 80-foot beds on the old part of the property across the alley. So those are the lots that we started with. We basically only decided to cultivate there when it looked like we were going to be able to buy the house next to it and get water hose access. Everything that we do is within the reach of the water hose. If we really needed to, we could just run a hose across the street. We have not done that because we have found a neighbor that will let us water using their hose, for which we reimburse them according to the use. But it has not been very much. That's seasonal use, and we try and be a light partner, have a light footprint in that respect.
And so there has been a question in the chat. Do you mind if we give more direct, if people are familiar with the Farnsworth neighborhood, although you're not located on Farnsworth, but that's kind of the name of it. So it would be between Mount Elliott and
Mount Elliott and McDougal.
And then Warren
to Ferry.
Down to the freeway to Ferry. And Ferry now, the city and DNR have set up in an abandoned park a nice wildlife refuge there, which is all planted with wildflowers. So it's really one of the best destinations for bike rides in the city. To ride through your neighborhood. I know I love on my little eco tours that I do with people. I love taking people through the neighborhood and watch the reaction of, where did this come from? This is, so if people are familiar with like where the Packard plant is, this is the antithesis, less than a mile away.
We're right next door. Well, and I think hopefully, I think a lot of the residents like how open it all feels, but I tried to wear the soccer shirt from the neighborhood because it's got the pheasant on it, but we still hear the males. They're not as close to the property as they used to be, but I think that we like to think that there's enough being left that they still have a place. I hope that answers the question.
We love our pheasants in Detroit. It's our D2 Solar logo as well.
That's right. That's right.
And my solar partner, Diane, is making a video or a movie featuring the pheasants of Detroit, which you guys are featured in. So I know that you're aware of that. Let's talk a little bit about the grant, because in Michigan, there have been a number of the rural grants, and I heard about it several years ago at one of the conferences where they were talking all about how the cherry farmers, for example, that have, huge solar fields now were able to get a fourth of the payment through these grants. And then they also would get tax credits, and it was the greatest deal. And from that, I kept thinking, we got to get one of and I asked the guy then, okay, rural, urban, we have farms. So he said, give me a farm and we'll try to do it. So Jack has always been a good sport about being the one to, and it took 2 years to get that through, but it finally did work. So congratulations.
Well, I think 2 years start to finish, along the way, but we were a really small project. We only needed 18 panels, and we did enough. The farm accounts for most of our energy use, and we had a project that was going to be between $15,000 and $20,000 total. There was no outdoor installation, no rack or anything. They were just going to go on the roof. So it ended up being part of a larger project for us, where we had been meaning to replace the roof and do some other work on the house frame. So that was the first part that we did, and then the second part was the getting of the solar panels, and that project was what we applied for the grant to cover part of. Still with me? So that covered 25%. If memory serves, the project ended up being around $18,000, and the grant paid for $4,500.
Oh, which is fabulous.
Yeah, so that's the scale. We thought that we were probably among the smallest projects they have ever seen, but we thought it was maybe a charming opportunity to help out a really, really little farm. So
and I know our state guy stuck with it too, because he really wanted to see it happen. You also, part of the parameters for that grant is that the farm owner must derive at least 50% of your total household income from the farm. So while I had
Sure, yep.
recommended it to a few other people, a lot of the urban farms in Detroit are either nonprofit, which
Yep.
would not be qualified,
Yep.
or you know, they had a daytime job as well,
Yep.
or you know, the household income was. So you really fit that sweet spot.
Hey, thanks. Yep. I
that
mean,
you were able to do it.
Yep, we pride ourselves on a very small business model, efficient but low cost, and yeah, I mean, it was obviously something that we had prepared to afford for a while, and we had, yeah,
Great.
did a little bit of financing, but otherwise, I think we. In the grant application, they have you do the cost analysis to figure out when the system will pay for itself, and our estimate was 10 to 12 years. That was with the grant's help. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I think that we probably save it's about a $1,200 a year savings for the business. Does that make sense?
Mhm. But you didn't have that high of an electric bill to begin with. So
That's right. That's right.
it
Yep.
does almost erase your electric bill, right?
That's right. Yep. So, you know, and with all that stuff, it's like any other human project. You just pay up front and then you benefit on the back end. But otherwise, yeah.
We have to get a sign for you at Eastern Market now that says solar grown, so that more people will be aware of how.
That's right.
Although
Well,
everybody
I mean,
at Eastern Market sees this amazing bicycle setup with all these trailers, and I don't know how many people have seen Jack on the road in the dead of winter with the stacks of plastic bins, and I think, oh my gosh, you know, look out, here he comes.
Yeah.
It's
I
true.
mean,
You do not own a vehicle, right?
we don't own a vehicle, though we certainly take advantage of sharing services, ride hailing, and that stuff. You know, I think the current reality makes it fairly easy to avoid owning a vehicle, but we, yeah. Again, it's just extreme cost control. I'm trying to think of any other technical details about the system that would be relevant. You know, the panels will only produce power if they have the grid to push back on. We looked into the possibility of having a battery that would serve the needs of the household even for 24 hours. It was prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
So we decided to think about it like using the grid as the battery. But if the panels, if it's full sunlight and the panels are throwing lots of energy off and they have the grid to kind of push it through onto, then you get power flow and your meter just shows an arrow blinking in one direction. And then when you are using power, your meter has an arrow blinking in the other direction.
Yeah, I always like seeing that arrow going in the right direction.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
what you're doing is you're sharing your solar power with your neighbors, and you were able to take advantage of the net metering, which is great. Because
that's right. Yep. I would think that it is probably still a really good deal to sign up. Yeah, I just think we were, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we like it. We do not have power in a power outage because the panels will sense that there's no grid available for all the excess power, so they just shut down.
Right.
In the city, we have not found power outages to be a substantial problem. They do happen occasionally, but yeah.
Right. Floods, now that was a different thing.
I'm
going to open it up for questions. So if you have a question, you can jump in or you can put it in the chat. We did have a question of the size of the system. I think, are you under 6 kilo? What is your total size?
It's just about 6 kilowatts.
6 kilowatts, yeah. And that is about running your household. That's
right. I mean, the numbers are something like the base load to run the business is about 0.7 kilowatts. That goes up a little bit during the day because sometimes the greenhouse fan will turn on and sometimes it operates shutters that's all in a thermostat, a switch that we don't control. But otherwise, it's just the cooler fan running around the clock and the cooler compressor if it's trying to bring the temperature down. So 0.7 kilowatts is about 17 kilowatts a day. The system on a good day can produce like 20 to 25. So it is capable of producing more power in a good day than we would use, but on cloud days, it doesn't produce as much power as we use. So I think we've generally found it to be a wash.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are about 6 to 8 months out of the year where we produce more power, though not substantially more than we use. And there are about 4 to 6 months out of the year when we don't produce enough power, though it's not a substantial difference. But that's good. I think that means we looked at our capacity and our needs, and we developed a system that is roughly the right size.
That's really good that you don't oversize. Right. So that's a really, really good point.
We are trying to be a good partner with the electricity company. We hope that they enter into more agreements like this with other people because hopefully it works out for them.
I don't know why they're so threatened by this net metering, but they were. So that's why
Oh my goodness.
ended.
Yep.
But yeah, your example shows how it really does work in the
Yep.
best circumstances, that you're helping to provide power in the summertime to your neighbors when it's needed. I've noticed in your neighborhood that some housing values have been going up as well. So I think it's a neighborhood that's been, don't know if any other people considering solar, do you think, or have people been talking
I think there
about
has
it?
been a little bit of interest, but you can find news articles on the solar panel effect, and we're just curious to see what happens down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's
Okay.
pretty visible on Moran Street. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You've got a very visible roof line on the side street there. Any questions? Any from our audience here tonight? Like, how many chickens do you have, or
Yeah, I'm 16.
You're
Hopefully
up to
maybe one day
16.
as many as 20 or 25. I think that's probably but I think we have a manageable setup.
Yeah. That's a lot of eggs.
Yeah. I think it's enough to pay for the feed and give us a few eggs besides. So again, I think we're just trying to come up with something that's manageable and small scale.
Can you hear me?
I can
Yes.
hear you.
Yeah. Well, we got that bill stuck in the House here where the 1% limit. They're sitting on that bill yet. I don't know the number of it
Yeah,
all.
the cap.
Pardon?
You mean the cap on?
Yeah,
how
we
much
need
solar?
to get that cap off. It's the power companies, of course, are paranoid, but we need to get that off. I'm a experimental renewable energy contract holder, and it's going to run out first of the year. I think they're going to stick it to me, but I'll do the best I can.
I know if you're following what Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association has been working pretty hard at the state level to make sure that cap is lifted, as well as a lot of other environmental groups. But yeah, we'll have to see in September when the legislature gets back together again, reconvenes where that future is. But in
what
our
I do
district, in DTE district here in Detroit, they've estimated that it could run out, the cap could run out within the next year. So yeah, that it's really critical that is lifted. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, what you do?
Oh, I was going to say, what was I going to say? I got 2K on my house and I push it all the time. People should, and I don't push batteries. I push net metering. That's the smartest thing in the world. We don't need batteries and all the contaminants that go with them. Just work together.
Yeah, and that DTE made sure net metering went away. So, yeah, we need state legislation to get net metering back as well, because that is the only way that makes sense for a lot of folks. Any other questions out there? I'm curious how many people have been to Eastern Market to see and I realize a lot of people aren't from Detroit, but has anyone seen Jack you've got quite a following, don't you, Jack?
Oh,
people
thanks.
that
That's very nice
are
of you to say,
here.
Diane. That's very nice of you to say.
Yeah.
You know, it's all part of the act. We just try and market our story and just provide authenticity. But I'll come say hi to anybody. Just come find us at market.
You know, I'm noticing Eastern Market now has more and more and more people with the same, although, you know, it's cheeses and other things in addition to the microgreens, but microgreens are getting to be pretty popular at the market.
Yeah, no, and I think that's good. If your segment is being copied, I think that's a good problem to have. But really, for a lot of small enterprises, if you have a repeatable, sellable product that you can do at some scale, like that's really where that is the secret to what we do. So we do a lot of seasonal products.
How many flats of sunflowers do you start a week or sell a week?
It's a lot. It's probably like 15 to 20, which is down from what it used to be before the pandemic still, but it's high turnover and 11 months out of the year. And everything else in the business model kind of rests on that. Though seasonal produce, Carolyn has really been improving it quite a bit over the years to where it is a much bigger share of the business model. And that's important because I think that stuff is easy to transport and demand is much higher for that because it's only available in a limited way. Yeah, so
that's the spinach and the
I mean, for us, solar was all about doing something in the background that you could take care of once and make a generational investment, and then you could look away, live the rest of your life with a little better sleep, and we generally don't have to mess with it.
It takes care of itself.
Yeah, no, we love checking in with it, and the kids are always interested in seeing the app that the manufacturer of the inverter lets you use to track your usage. So yeah. So
that's fun.
Of course, yeah. Lines on a graph, but the kids love it.
So Father Morris is asking if the model in incorporation of solar has been applied to other urban farms across the state.
I mean, like you say, I think we are pretty unique because we are living off the farm income. And there are many models out there. So who knows, you know, I have heard of other places that have gotten solar panels just on their own, or they're affiliated with another institution like a church that acquires that kind of stuff. We just dropped some stuff off at Oakland Avenue, Jerry Hebron's place, and she has a bunch of solar panels alongside one of her greenhouses. And I thought the folks, it's not Food Field anymore, but the place where Food Field used to be, I thought they had a pretty serious solar setup too. So I think the urban farm solar installation works well because it's high visibility. And Diane, do you ever go by the place in the Cass corridor? It's got on Second. You're going north on Second, and there's an apartment building that has a large solar array.
Oh, yeah, on Third.
And it's got
on
bike
Third,
parking.
Yeah, it's a bike rack. It's been there for a good 10 years now.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I just always like the fact that it kind of got taken over as a bike rack.
Yeah, it's the solar shed for the bikes. And
exactly.
It's pretty valuable property right now too, when you think about
exactly.
Yeah.
Hanging out there on the corner.
I actually helped that guy years ago. They wanted the panels, and it's to support their building, and this is net metering days too, and it's to support the big tall apartment building next door.
Which building is it? Because we were like, well, this is a really cool solar array, and at the time we wanted to do an interview, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's the building itself is to the east. It's pretty long. I can't remember the name of the apartment building, but this is back when we had the Obama money a while ago, and through Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, there was a grant for energy efficiency. So we helped them back then get some new lighting and whatnot. He really wanted the solar panels. and the building is maybe 4 or 5 stories tall, and you decided, well, let's put them out on the grass. And the amazing thing, well, the wonderful thing to say is that those panels have been out there in the best and the worst times of the gas corridor and
That's right.
never touched. I mean, they just keep pumping out solar. And yeah, they did become the bike garage. Underneath. So that's the case where we always try to stress that you're energy efficient before you put up your solar panels. But in that case, he really wanted the eye candy, I think, at the solar panels.
Yeah.
And probably put up in the days when solar was costing about $4 a watt too. So that was a pretty expensive project. He could sell the land for $1 million now. So
I know. Unbelievable.
You're doing fine. Okay. Oh, and Kat just listed Detroit Farm and Cider. Another one of the, and then Kat, you said Oakland Avenue Farm will be coming up again. Yeah, in Detroit, I posted with our announcement today, there are over 1,600 community, neighborhood, backyard gardens. So it is quite a garden community. And quite a few businesses have started up as a result with the farming, whether they're nonprofit, as with Oakland Avenue and quite a few nonprofit, or their community where they share the work together and then share the food as well. We have a wonderful program, Keep Growing Detroit, that really helps facilitate for a lot of folks getting your soil tested. It's one of the questions that always comes up, is the soil safe in Detroit? And you explained how you went around and found the right land first. But generally it's a great location for growing. We actually have great soil in Detroit, and then with all the leaves and the compost and whatnot. So Detroit has a well-earned reputation now as a garden community, but at the same time, we're also known as a food desert because of the fact that for most people, access to fresh food is not as available in their neighborhood. So that's why a lot of organizations are working like Keep Growing Detroit to help people grow their own, or at least have access to it. So it's a really critical part of our city and city building, how we do it now. So I don't want to proselytize here about the gardening, but it is a pretty important part. Any other questions? Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it then. Kat, I want to thank you again for taking up that challenge of documenting our solar stories of Detroit. And I think your experience of getting to meet so many interesting people probably just made it that more exciting for you to start grad school now.
Yeah, it was worth all the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last chance for questions. Otherwise, we're going to sign off now. Thank you again, Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, for helping us share our solar stories in Detroit. And we look forward to next third Thursday with another adventure here in Detroit as we promote solar. Thank you all.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Bye now.
Thank you.
Goodbye.